say good evening to everybody. Welcome everybody to the house of Jacob, where we are keeping another one of the Lord's high days, Day of Atonement, that He commanded that we ought to keep throughout all generations and all our dwellings. So we are gathered this evening to obey the commandment of the Lord. Now, today is the Day of Atonement. Let me give you that. It is the Day of Atonement. And what we are going to do, as always, we always deal with these high days in their season. And what we do is we give you the meaning of these days, because they all have a meaning. You know, God didn't just set up a time for you to congregate, but they have a meaning in God's plan for the salvation of man through Jesus Christ. And we are going to show you the meaning of this one. What we are going to do first is we're going to take you back when this Day of Atonement was instituted, and then we are going to bring it down to today. You know, because these days they were types. And we're going to show you the type, and then we are going to show you the reality. But first, what we are going to do is go back to Leviticus chapter 23. And we'll begin there, because God has all of his high days listed in the 23rd chapter of Leviticus. And I always like to say, you know, in case we have visitors, people that may not be familiar with these days, I always like to say, if you don't learn anything else tonight, at least understand that these are the feasts of the Lord that we deal with here. And I always like to read that to make certain that people understand that. Because most people think that these days are Jewish. You know, like the people that you look upon as being the Jews, or the world look upon as being the Jews, they call this Yom Kippur. We call it by the name that is written in the version of the Bible that we read from, and that is the King James. And it is called the Day of Atonement. But as I was saying, most people think these things are Jewish, and they have nothing to do with Christianity. But they are so very wrong, because all of these high days is listed right here. The type is about sacrificing animals and all of that. The reality, though, is about Jesus. And we are going to show you that. Let's start this lesson in Leviticus chapter 23. And we'll begin reading at verse 1. Leviticus 23, and we'll begin at verse 1. Okay, brother, go ahead and read.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of the Lord.
Now he said, the Lord spake unto Moses. So this is not Moses, you know, because some people even said, you know, these are the laws of Moses. But it is very clear here that the Lord spake unto Moses and told Moses to speak unto the people concerning the feast of the Lord. He's going to say it 3 times here in 4 verses to make it clear to everybody that these are the feast of the Lord and not the feast of the Jews. Go ahead and read on.
Which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations. Even these are my feasts.
Now the Lord said, proclaim them to be holy convocations, even these are his feasts. In other words, you are commanded to have a gathering on these days. This is what a convocation means, to have a gathering. So now you are commanded by God to have a gathering on these days that are listed here in this 23rd chapter of Leviticus. Go ahead and read on.
6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. You shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. So
now, and that have not changed. You know, like some people say, well, you know, everything changes. The 7th day is not the Sabbath day anymore. It is the first day. Look, it is the 7th day. It has always been the 7th day, and it will always be the 7th day. We are not dealing with the weekly Sabbath today. We are dealing with this high Sabbath. Go ahead and continue reading.
These are the feasts of the Lord.
Again, the Lord said, he said, these are the feast of the Lord. So he said it 3 times. So if you don't leave here learning anything else, at least understand that these are the feast of the Lord. Jesus did not nail them to the cross either. The only laws that he nailed to the cross were the animal sacrifice laws. Right. And the Bible makes that very clear. He told you in Daniel the 9th chapter. He told you again in Hebrews the 10th chapter. So now again, these are the feasts of the Lord that you are to claim as holy convocations. Go ahead and read on.
Which you shall proclaim in their seasons.
Now he said you shall proclaim these holy convocations in their seasons. Now there's a season for each one, and we are going to deal with the one that is in season. Let's skip down to verse 26 and continue reading.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Also on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement.
Now, according to God's calendar, it is the 10th day of the 7th month, because God calculates time different than man calculates time. God's day began in the evening at the going down of the sun, when you can see a change. That makes more sense. You know, 12 o'clock midnight, you don't see no change. You understand? 1, you still haven't seen a change. 2, 3, you still haven't seen a change. But with the way God calculates time, when the sun go down, then you know that ended one day, and that